Chapter 4, The African Rainforest. Africa. Back during the late Miocene, the tectonic activity of this continent created the Great Rift Valley. This was the starting point for the evolution of humankind, but the formation of the dry and hot valley wasn't the end. For millions of years the plates continued drifting away till the African continent became two new continents separated by a shallow internal sea. At both sides of the meaty African Sea, a dense tropical rainforest rises over what used to be Ethiopia, Kenya and Tanzania, and is the home of many creatures that have been evolving in relative isolation for the past 20 million years. As we walk through the forest floor, we can find a wide variety of tiny creatures: crickets, toads, small birds, butterflies, bees and lizards, crawling and flying around us, and when we look up, we can also spot a miwa jumping from branch to branch. This tiny creature, a little bigger than a hamster, is one of the most common creatures we can find in this forest, and is just one of more than 50 different species of arboreal shrew, descendants of a single small population of elephant shrew that barely managed to survive the Anthropocene mass extinction event. All the different species are endemic to East Africa and Madagascar, and none of them weighs more than 2 kilograms. The brown miwa or common miwa can be found through most of Ethiopia, except the areas that are currently under the sea, and is not rare to find many of them living in the same tree. They feed almost completely on fruits, just occasionally eating small soft-body invertebrates like worms or grubs. They spend most of the day foraging for food, using their little hands and trunk to pluck fruit from the branches. When the night falls, they seek refuge inside tree holes. We follow this female to her nest, and when we look inside we can see that she is a mother. 3 days ago she gave birth to this 8 tiny and defenseless babies, and for the next 2 weeks she will dedicate all her time and energy to keep them safe and feed them every 2 hours. After that, the little miwas will open their eyes, grow some fur, and will start to adventure outside the nest and eat solid food. In less than a month they will be independent, ready to navigate the canopy with grace, and the mother will go fertile again, and the cycle will repeat once again. We continue walking through the forest floor, and eventually we stumble upon a loving couple of Conquerors. The Conqueror is a flightless descendant of the parrot that can grow up to a meter tall, and can only be found in the east of Ethiopia and Kenya, where there is no predator big enough to take them down. They evolved from a Brazilian population of parrots that survived the Anthropocene extinction and quickly spread to Africa and Australia. Several species adopted a flightless lifestyle, but the Conqueror is the only one currently alive, thanks to the absence of large mammalian predators in the continent, and the abundance of their preferred food source. This bird feeds mostly on coconuts and similar hard nuts, breaking them effortlessly with its huge beak and powerful jaw muscles. Aside from just eating, they also use their beaks to fend off small predators like the chagrals. These birds are monogamous, and with a lifespan of more than 50 years, the couples often spend more than 30 years together. Their bond is very strong, and when one of the pair dies, the other will mourn them for weeks and even months. Some even stop eating for long periods of time or pluck their own feathers. Not too far away from the Conqueror couple we can hear a rustling sound coming from the bushes. When we take a closer look we can see it was a Burhack. This peculiar-looking creature, one of many descendants of the naked mole rat that during the Anthropocene used to be a species of eusocial fossorial rodent. The Burhack, however, has abandoned this lifestyle, and now roams the surface, eating all sorts of vegetation and mushrooms that proliferate in the forest floor. This one is a male. We can tell because the females are social and usually live in large groups from between 20 and 30 individuals. All of them are able to reproduce, but generally only the older females do it, and the younger ones help them take care of the babies. The babies will be fully dependent of their mothers for 2 months. After that they will start being more independent and eat on their own. The females will stay in the same group for all their lives, while the males will be expelled as soon as they reach sexual maturity. One of the most notorious features of this animal is that their incisive tooths have turned into tusks. These tusks are used to dig for tubers, destroy palms, to access the soft, nutritious interior of the plant, and in the males, intraspecific combat. After a couple hours we reach a clear in the forest. This place is full of flowers, and flying over them we can see a hummingbird bat, weighing an average of 7 grams. This creature is one of the smallest diurnal bats currently living on the planet. and an example of convergent evolution not only with the now extinct hummingbirds but also with the Cuban flower bat from the Anthropocene. These creatures are perfectly adapted to survive only on nectar. This nectar provides a lot of sugar and energy and allow them to sustain an extremely high metabolism. Their heart beats 800 times per minute when hovering around flowers. They are diurnal, but they aren't awake all day, taking a lot of naps between meals. Actually, they take from 20 to 25 quick naps, each one around 5 to 8 minutes, and during the night they gather in small groups and refuge under large leaves or in high tree branches to sleep. They sleep for 5 to 6 hours. During this time they are in a state similar to a coma, and is impossible to wake them up. This is not the only diurnal bat that we can find in the forest. In a nearby river we find an African silverbat, a species that thrives in all the rivers and lakes of the both African continents and in part of the Indian subcontinent. This odd-looking bat can grow as much a mother eagle and its incisors are as long as a human index finger. These creatures feeds mostly on fish. They fly in circles above the water surface, and when they finally spot the prey, they precipitate at a great speed and skims close to the water surface using its long teeth to snatch the fish. If the fish is small they will most likely eat mid-fly, but if it's too big they will have to fly to the nearest tree to eat. This is risky because if other silverbats sees them they will try to steal their catch. They mate during winter, and during mating season is common that the males will offer regurgitated fish as a nuptial gift for the females. If she accepts this, hay will mate for a couple weeks, and at the beginning of spring she will give birth to twins. Both parents will take care of them, and at the age of 2 months they will learn to fly and start feeding on their own. As the sun begins to set, the butterflies and bats are replaced by moths. Several different species are swarming around us, but for an unknown reason a lot of them seem to be gathering around a large dead tree, and hour by hour they start to disappear. Upon closer inspection we see that the tree is full of tiny holes, and a peculiar smell fills the air. The culprit is this creature, commonly known as the succubus beetle. This 3 centimeters long insect is a proficient predator with a clever hunting method. Just like any beetle, they start their lives as a tiny larvae eating decaying vegetation and other little soft body organisms, but after their metamorphosis they adopt a more distinctive behavior. They will fly to a death tree or dig a small burrow in the ground and will start to produce a smelly substance from a couple glands located both in the tip of its abdomen and the base of its legs. This substance smells exactly like the pheromones that the female moths produce, but it's much more intense, and therefore it attracts all the male moths in kilometers. There are about 12 different species of this genus of beetles, each one specialized in hunting a different species of moth. Some also take a more generalist approach and produce a sweet smell that allows them to attract basically any moth, butterfly or bee in the area, but it comes with the problematic of sometimes attracting a prey too big for them. The next morning we wake up by the sound of a group of juvenile miwas playing around in the branches, when suddenly one gets snatched by a chagral. The rest run away as the predator swallows the little miwa.
The chagral is the largest predator of the eastern continent, with an average weight of 12 kilograms. Is not big enough to target Conquerors or Burhacks but is an expert miwa slayer. They also feed on frogs, small bats, small birds, lizards, and giant snails. Their ancestors were descendants of modern European shrews that evolved in the western African continent and then crossed the internal African Sea, drafting on mats made of vegetation and earth. When they first arrived they caused the extinction of many creatures that weren't used to the presence of predators, including smaller relatives of the Conquerors and a species of flightless bat. It took a couple million years for the ecosystem to stabilize again. The chagrals can be classified in 3 species: the lesser chagral of Madagascar, the great chagral from Ethiopia and the ringed-tail chagral from Kenya. All of them are fast, agile and venomous to a certain extent. The smallest species is actually the one with the strongest venom. It would be enough to kill a creature the size of a house cat, which is a lot considering the lesser chagral is around half that size. After following the chagral back to its nest we start heading back to the camp, and when we look up we find something peculiar in the trees. The branches are full of what seems to be crustaceans. This is the tree crayfish, a descendant of Anthropocene crayfish members of the Atticus genus. that has adapted to an almost completely terrestrial lifestyle. They can be found kilometers away from any body of water, eating fruits and decaying vegetation both in the forest floor and high up in the trees. They are very good climbers, using their legs to hug the branches while their claws are used for feeding. They will go back to the water every year though, because just as many insects and frogs, they reproduce and spend the first stage of their lives underwater. During this time they will eat an omnivorous diet composed both by algae and scraps of dead fishes and other crustaceans. After they reach the centimeter in length they will migrate to land and start feeding more and more in vegetation. The oldest individual can reach sizes about 1 foot long and feed almost exclusively on fruits and berries.